Okay, so today we are taking a deep dive into an idea that's, well, it's pretty radical. It might even make you reflexively check your phone, just hearing it.
Hmm.
We're basically challenging this fundamental assumption that we need to consume news daily to be, successful or informed citizens.
Exactly. We're unpacking these really powerful and, frankly, quite devastating arguments from author Rolf Dobelli. His core belief is that the daily news cycle, that constant flood of alerts, headlines, breaking updates, it isn't just a bit distracting.
Yeah.
He argues it's actively bad for your thinking, your health, even your ability to succeed.
Right, so our mission here is to figure out why. Why does Dobelli think ditching the news altogether is actually the most logical way to get genuine knowledge? We're going to sort of diagnose the problem as he sees it, and then lay out his plan for actually mastering information flow instead of just, well, drowning in it.
And it really kicks off with his central claim, which is immediately provocative. He says, news is to the mind what sugar is to the body.
Ah,
It tastes good, it's super easy to digest, highly addictive, but ultimately, it's poison. Just empty information calories giving you a quick rush.
okay, let's unpack that. When he first started thinking this way, he noticed something kind of strange about how we got information back in the old days of print and scheduled TV news.
Yeah, he talks about growing up with that strict routine. The newspaper lands on the doorstep at 6:30 a.m. You turn on the radio news at 7:00 a.m. sharp. But the key thing he noticed was this structural arbitrariness. He realized that the newspaper, the TV bulletin, they were always the exact same length, say 36 pages or 30 minutes on the dot.
Regardless of whether it was a huge news day or nothing happened.
Precisely. It didn't matter if the world almost ended or if it was the quietest Tuesday ever. The container size was fixed.
Though the medium dictated the content, not the actual events. The paper had 36 slots to fill no matter what.
Exactly. Which means, on a busy day, genuinely important stories might get tossed just because they don't fit. And on a slow day, utter filler gets shoehorned in to fill the space. The selection is arbitrary, and whether it's actually important to you, that's completely irrelevant to the editor filling those slots.
That makes a certain kind of sense for print with physical limits.
Yeah.
But then the internet exploded in the 90s, and those physical walls just vanished.
Yeah.
How did that change the game?
Well, it escalated things dangerously. The digital format basically turned news consumption into a potential obsession. News went from being something you scheduled, like the 7 p.m. news hour, to something that actively chased you down. Dobelli even mentions things like those old point-cast screensavers, remember those? Constantly scrolling headlines right on your computer screen. It became inescapable, immediate, pervasive.
And crucially, the barrier to entry just disappeared. He makes this really strong point. The news might actually be more dangerous than things we usually label as vices, like alcohol or gambling.
That's right. It's more insidious because, well, there are basically no barriers. Alcohol, drugs, they cost money, they take effort, you have to actively seek them out. News, it's everywhere, mostly free, and it just seeps into your brain automatically through push notifications, endless scrolling feeds, you barely have to lift a finger, zero effort consumption.
His personal turning point is really interesting, too. After spending literally thousands of hours just absorbing this endless stream, he stopped and asked himself two deceptively simple questions.
Yeah. First, did I actually understand the world any better after all?
Second.
And second, did I make better decisions in my life or career because of it? And he realized the answer to both was just a flat no. He was entertained, sure, momentarily distracted, maybe felt aware, but was he better equipped? No.
So let's really zero in on this idea of irrelevance. It's kind of stunning when you think about it. He challenges you, the listener, to do something specific.
He asked you to try and name just 2 news stories. Out of maybe the last 20,000 you've consumed, headlines scrolled past, articles clicked that genuinely led to a demonstrably better decision in your personal life, your family, your job.
2 out of 20,000.
For him, the ratio was about that. 20,000 pieces of news consumed, leading to maybe 2 decisions influenced for the better. I mean, think about that return on investment. For your most valuable resource, your attention, your time, it's pitiful. It's the definition of opportunity cost. Think about the deep knowledge, the actual skills you could have gained in the time spent skimming those other 19,998 irrelevant stories.
Okay, but I have to push back a little here. This feels uncomfortable. If we just totally cut ourselves off, isn't that irresponsible, like civically irresponsible? How are we supposed to vote intelligently or understand global markets affecting our own if we just stick our heads in the sand? Surely some of those 20,000 stories matter.
That's probably the number one objection, right?
Yeah.
And Dobelli tackles it directly using a concept that Warren Buffett often talks about, the circle of competence.
Right. The area where you actually are or you're trying to become significantly better than average, your zone of expertise.
Exactly. And Dobelli's point is that the vast, vast majority of news falls completely outside that circle for most people. If you're a plumber or a teacher or a software engineer, how does the daily political drama in a country halfway across the world really impact your ability to do your job well today? Usually it doesn't. And if it does somehow connect to your specialty, maybe you're an investment banker who needs to track geopolitical risk well, then you're not getting that critical analysis from breaking news headlines anyway. You're getting it from specialized, long-form professional sources, trade journals, in-depth reports.
Not the 24-hour news cycle shouting match.
Right. So consuming endless information outside your actual circle of competence, Dobelli argues, is just a massive waste of precious mental energy and focus.
Okay, that's a strong counter. Let's shift to the practical costs then. Even if we accept most of it is irrelevant, what's the actual price tag in terms of lost time?
Right. Dobelli breaks this down into three distinct ways. News absolutely eats your time. And this is where it gets really quite shocking.
Okay, lay them out for us.
So first, there's just the raw time spent actually consuming the stuff. Reading articles, watching clips, scrolling feeds. Pew Research backs this up. It's typically somewhere between 58 and 96 minutes a day for the average person.
An hour to an hour and a half daily.
Yeah, and ironically, it often goes up with education level. Educated people often feel this stronger obligation to stay informed.
Okay, so that's bucket number one. What's two?
Number two is what he calls the relocation cost time. This is critical. It's the 2 to 3 minutes your brain needs to fully switch back and regain deep focus after being interrupted by a news alert, a tempting headline, or even just overhearing a breaking story.
The mental whiplash, the cost of context switching.
Exactly. And think how many times that happens a day. Those little 2-minute penalties add up massively.
Okay, and number three.
Number three is the post-consumption distraction. This is the time where those often negative or anxiety-inducing images, arguments, or stories just linger in your head for hours afterward. They disrupt your deep work, your creative thinking, your peace of mind.
Wow. Okay, let's just pause on that calculation. If we take even a conservative estimate, say an hour and a half total wasted per day, combining all three factors, that's basically one full workday completely lost.
Yeah.
Every single week.
It's staggering when you frame it like that. It adds up to over a month of lost productive time every single year. You're essentially volunteering to sacrifice a whole month of deep work or learning or even just living to feed an addiction that gives you, what, a 2 out of 20,000 usefulness ratio.
That's enough time to make serious progress on learning a language, writing a book draft, mastering a complex skill.
Precisely.
And it's not just time you're losing. Dobelli argues you're actively trading clarity for confusion. This constant stream actually limits real understanding, doesn't it?
It really does. News gives you these tiny, disconnected soap bubbles floating on the surface of a really complex world. People start confusing the act of consuming this rapid-fire stream of facts like random dots with actually comprehending the underlying systems, the generators, the machine room that causes the events.
His example of the collapsed bridge really nails this dynamic, I think. Can you walk us through that machine room idea?
Sure. So imagine a bridge collapses a structural failure. The news immediately zooms in on, say, the individual driver who tragically drove onto the wreckage or the specific family grieving. We get their backstory, their emotions, the immediate human drama. That's the shiny, compelling soap bubble.
It's the human interest angle, designed to make you feel something instantly.
Yes. But what's actually important? What leads to understanding and prevention? It's the structural integrity of the bridge itself. It's the inspection protocols, the risk management systems that failed, the government funding decisions, whether other bridges built the same way are also at risk. That is the underlying machine room. But by fixating on the individual driver's sad story, we completely miss the big, slow, complex, and potentially fixable truth underneath.
And its shallow intake doesn't just hinder insight, it actively makes us worse at predicting things, right? There's a study on that.
Yes, it leads to this dangerous overconfidence built on flimsy knowledge. He points to a Stanford study on horse racing bettors. They found that giving bettors more isolated facts about the horses, things like the jockey's favorite food or how fast the horse ran in a recent practice, it didn't make their betting predictions any more accurate, but it made them significantly more confident in their faulty predictions. News consumption breeds the illusion of knowledge, the confidence of a know-it-all, not the actual accuracy of an expert.
Wow. Okay, so beyond the cognitive costs, there's also a very real physical and psychological toll. It feels like news is almost designed to keep us on edge.
It absolutely is. The news system basically hijacks our built-in negativity bias. You know, that evolutionary quirk where bad news weighs about twice as heavily on our minds as good news. Survival mechanism, maybe? News outlets know this. Fear, shock, outrage, that's what grabs attention. That's what sells clicks and keeps eyeballs glued to the screen.
And that excitement isn't just mental, it's a physical reaction.
Definitely. It triggers our sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response. It floods our bodies with cortisol, the main stress hormone. And constant exposure to this, especially from negative news, leads to chronic stress symptoms. Nearly half of adults report feeling stressed by the news. This can lower immune function, create chronic tension, and this is crucial, deplete our willpower, ego depletion.
That willpower depletion is really key, isn't it? Because it feeds directly into the final big problem he identifies: learned helplessness.
Think about it. What percentage of news stories are about things you can actually do something about right now? Probably close to zero. 99% of it concerns stuff totally outside your immediate sphere of influence. A volcano erupting far away, a political tweet storm, poverty on another continent, constant bombardment with tragedy and chaos you cannot change, teaches your brain something dangerous.
Like those infamous experiments with the mice and the electric shocks, where if they couldn't escape the shocks initially, they just gave up trying later, even when escape was possible.
Exactly like that. They learn that their actions don't matter, learned helplessness. And Dobelli argues that passive feeling spreads. If you feel powerless about global events, that sense of helplessness can start to contaminate areas where you do actually have control: your job performance, your health goals, your relationships. You start to lose the fundamental belief that your effort makes a difference anywhere.
Okay, so the diagnosis is pretty grim. News as cognitive and physical poison. What's the cure? What's Dobelli's radical solution? And maybe more importantly, how do we actually pull it off without freaking out about missing something vital?
Well, his plan is definitely radical, it's immediate, and it's total. A complete cold turkey cessation of news consumption. No newspapers, no news websites bookmarked, no radio news briefs, no TV news bulletins, and critically, cutting off the social media feeds that just act as news funnel.
Total news blackout.
Yeah.
He lays out a 30-day plan, right? Because this is where most people listening are probably thinking, no way, what's the emotional journey supposed to look like in that first month?
Yeah, he acknowledges the first week is absolutely the hardest. You will feel it. Intense fear of missing out FOMO, a kind of jittery internal restlessness. You feel disconnected, maybe even irresponsible, worried the world might genuinely fall apart without you watching. Your brain is essentially going through withdrawal from those constant little dopamine hits of novelty.
So you just have to power through that discomfort.
Yeah, you have to write it out. But he argues that 30 days is the magic number, the critical threshold. After about a month, things shift. You start to feel noticeably calmer, your concentration improves, and you have this dawning realization: you haven't actually missed anything truly important, because his argument goes, genuinely critical information, stuff that directly impacts your business, your community, your safety, it will always find its way to you through colleagues, friends, family, maybe professional journals if needed. The noise gets filtered out, but the signal still gets through.
Okay, so you clear out all that mental clutter, but you can't just leave a void, right? You have to replace the habit. That time gained needs to be filled with better intellectual nutrition, as you called it earlier.
Absolutely crucial. The time and focus you reclaim must be actively reinvested. It needs to be filled with what he calls long texts. You need to use that space for actual deep thinking and slow consumption. He points to super high performers like Bill Gates, who famously takes those think weeks, completely isolating himself just to read books and long, complex reports. No news allowed.
So it's about swapping that mile-wide, inch-deep consumption for something narrow but profound. What qualifies as this good mental nutrition?
Books are the absolute gold standard, especially textbooks, he argues, which represent centuries of distilled, structured knowledge, not just a fleeting reaction to yesterday's events. Also, long-form articles from reputable sources, well-researched essays, scientific journals, things like Foreign Affairs or MIT Technology Review, things that take time to digest.
The key difference being that these formats, by their very nature, have to offer real substance, context, and analysis to justify their length. They force you to focus on the depth of your understanding, the slow, complex truths, not just the fast, emotional clickbait fragments.
Exactly. And focusing on depth provides this incredibly valuable shield, a shield against manipulation. Manipulation by algorithms designed to keep you clicking, by PR spin, by fake news, all of which thrive in that short, emotional, superficial format that the daily news addiction trains our brains to crave. You essentially regain control over your own attention span.
Okay, so let's wrap up this deep dive. We've basically established, following Dobelli, that daily news consumption is, 1, a massive measurable drain on your time.
Right.
2, it often promotes confusion over clarity by focusing on anecdotes instead of systems, those are soap bubbles instead of the machine room. 3, it actively strengthens harmful cognitive biases like our negativity bias. 4, it messes with our bodies by constantly triggering the stress response, releasing cortisol. And 5, it can even lead to learned helplessness, making us feel powerless.
And the flip side is that abandoning the news isn't just some quirky productivity hack. He frames it as a fundamental act of self-care. It's about cognitive liberation, taking back your focus, and making space for the kind of deep knowledge that actually helps you understand how the world works, moving beyond the bubbles into the machine room.
It's powerful stuff. You know, the news industry and maybe our own habits want us to believe that without that constant feed, society would just crumble, or at least our lives would. It reminds me of how people once genuinely believed the monarchy was absolutely essential for the world to even function. But Dobelli uses this great historical analogy.
The King Charles one.
Yeah. On January 30th, 1649, King Charles I of England lost his head. He was executed. A massive, world-shaking event, surely.
You'd think.
But the next day, January 31st, the Thames River still flowed through London. The baker still baked his bread. The sun still rose in the morning. Life went on. So the provocative thought to leave you with is this. What if your life, your concentration, your ability to think clearly and make truly profound decisions, what if all that would also just continue? Or maybe even dramatically improve if you decided to consciously cut off that constant noisy stream of daily information?
What if it allowed you to finally focus on the slow, complex, important truths that actually matter for your life and your circle of competence?
Something to think about.